Good morning, this is Mike Young with our second video. In this one we're going to look at the situation in Syria just after the attack. Here's an options table showing the first thing. The US said, because of this gassing of the people, I am going to attack Syria. And the UK thought it would be good for the Americans to do that. And the Free Syrian Army also agreed. Assad, of course, opposed it, and the Russians opposed it. And if nothing else had happened, and that had been all that had gone on, the Americans would have attacked. So this was what they were saying was going to happen, and the dilemmas and the problems are with Assad and with the Russians. They're the people who are motivated to change things. Also, the British said they would come in, so the UK would also attack Syria. And how did the Syrians react? What was the first thing the Syrians said? They said, we want to see proof. We want the Americans to show evidence that Assad is responsible, they said. So they put a tick there. Show us the evidence, they said. The Americans said, we will show the evidence. But of course, Assad didn't believe that. He didn't think the Americans were capable of showing the evidence. So we show that as a tiny question mark here. This shows that Assad did not trust the Americans to be able to show that evidence. The Americans said, hey, we're willing to show the evidence. The British thought the Americans ought to show it. And the Russians, everyone agreed we should show it, but the Russians also thought that the Americans were unable to show the evidence. So here we are. In one sense, it looks as if America's winning. All it wants to have happen, this column, is what's going to happen in the future. So it's getting its own way. The dilemmas, the problems are with Russia and Assad. So America is on target and on plan at the moment. But what happened next? What happened next was this. The Russian dilemma here, they had to find a way out. And there are 6 different ways of solving Russia's persuasion dilemma. The method it chose was B, to try to introduce a credible and sufficient threat to deter the USA. Press pause if you want to look at other options Russia had. But what it tried to do was to think of something that would stop the USA. So it said, I know what we'll do. We'll veto UN resolutions to attack them. And so that will give the USA a dilemma. Right, so what did the USA say? The USA said, we're going to attack anyway. So when they said that, what they were actually saying was, at this level, at the top level, we do not care about your veto, Russia. We think it's irrelevant. So I'm going to put a dash there for I don't care. Irrelevant. Whether Russia vetoes the UN resolutions or not, I'm still going to attack. And that's the way which America and Britain, so they would attack without a UN resolution, also overcome their dilemmas. The FSA doesn't care about UN resolutions. It's indifferent to them. So that's what happened. Another thing that happened was the UK Parliament, for the first time in 150 years, decided that the UK could not go to war. So the UK's position changed to this one. I want the Americans, the USA, to attack Syria, so put a tick there. But I don't want Britain to attack Syria, so put a cross there. And the USA's position was, hey, we've got a problem with Britain now. So it had a dilemma for a little bit, but it said, hey, we'll manage without. We don't care about British support. The FSA, again, wasn't particularly fussed about it. So we're going to attack anyway. And what they did was they got rid of their dilemmas by not caring about how the others behave. All the dilemmas are back with Assad and the Russians. But look at what's happened. Let's see how the stories, the narratives, have been affected. Again, please press pause if you want to read this over slowly. Assad's narrative says the rebels launched the attack and the Americans are warmongering to get an excuse to get into Syria. And Assad's narrative is reinforced. To this, Assad says Obama is trying to repeat Iraq. And it does look like that because of the fact that the US has overridden the UN and the fact that the US is going in even without British support and seems determined at this point to do it. And the Russians say the US should not attack without a UN resolution, which they veto anyway. So what's happened is that the narrative of Assad has not been attacked by the American political moves. They've dealt with their dilemmas, but they haven't made it look as if this is not a neocon plot. So what could the West have done? In the next video, I'm going to give a suggestion, something that follows from the dilemma analysis. This is how the West could have reacted in a way that would have disrupted Assad's narrative. So I'll explain that in the next video.